No gods. Where's my gods? There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Orange versus MUFC post-game show. And, well, I heard I wasn't gangsta enough, so I've added the hoodie to my assortment of random thuggish-looking clothing. Gods, Orange versus MUFC, a tough series for fans of this up-and-coming MUFC squad. And you're muted. Well, there we go. Now you're unmuted.
Oh, that sound like I'm sure I unmuted myself. What are you talking about, LD? Yeah, it was a tough series for them. I feel. I mean, I don't know if you can say up. To some extent, they're up and coming. But they've been around a long time. Sharky's been leading this team for a long, long time. But today, Orange got the best of them. Something which hasn't always happened in the past. They've been trading series a while, but today, Orange just looks so much better. Orange are really. I feel like they're peaking at the moment. Their series against IG, sure they lost it 2-0, but they played so really. They just played damn well during that series, regardless.
And what a time to be peaking with the LAN finals ahead of them. So Orange, they book their tickets, they book their trip to the G-1 League LAN finals, and they're guaranteed quite a sizable amount of prizes. I think it was $6,000 or $7,000, something along those lines. It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's for fourth place. That's for fourth place, assuming they place last. If they do better, well, you're feeling pretty good. MUFC, unfortunately, their sort of replacement for the International 2, it comes to an end. Let's talk a little bit more about the series, but before we do that, we're going to start with some highlights from game number 1.
They can really try spam Orange down, and that's Orange can't really push into this tinker, so Orange are going to be forced to play a farming-oriented game here.
While it was happening, bottom tower went down, but it's top lane where Ice is low and dead. Had the black hole, didn't have the black hole because he... Ice back, in comes Ken, has the Ravage, Ice Path the Fly, catches 2, but not the Tide. Ravage on both, Net still diving, Mushi is here, Mushi is strong, and that is one very dead lifestealer. Where's the follow-up? Who else can fight against this TA? On the back lines of play, it's the Venomancer dropping. 2 heroes now dropping for MUFC. Barely surviving is the Jakiro. Now the lone man trying to get the hell out of here is Ohio, and no siree as well. That's still surviving, and the BKB now invests inside a creep. Keegan will be forced out by that Illuminate. Sharky dropping low. In comes Mushi. 1 kill, 2 kills in a matter of seconds. Dodges the Ravage back onto Ken. Mushi going for the triple. He wants it. Yamate will die. Net fought back, trying to find something on Ice. Can he get a bash? Can he get a bash? He does get a bash. 2 for 2. The buyback forced out. And wants to post up, wants to man up. Sharky finds himself right next to Ice. Rackropire and Ravage just exploding in the middle of this fight. Black hole on 2. Ice strikes back and finally lands a big one. Looking like a disaster. Looking like basically a team wipe. Gem on the floor as well.
What is he actually stalling for? Lifesteal's gone in, but he just gets completely mauled to pieces by Templar Assassin. Keeps himself alive with his smart armlet toggling, but it's still just not enough from MUFC.
They have Ravage up. They do have Ravage. Mushi is low. Doesn't want to waste that Aegis. Cannot. There's a Ravage. Mushi might even die. They really just want to get the damn racks. There you go. Ravage on 3. Not going to be enough, Mushi. You magician. Ultra kill for him. Doesn't die. And finally, it was all too much Mushi for this squad. MUFC forced to tap out. GG. Orange are going to take game number 1.
Well, the Mushi story, it really just as fun, but Mushi with...
Guys, that was game number 1, and God's game number 1 on the back of just a sensational Templar Assassin performance from Mushi, and some smart, efficient play from Yamate and just the team overall. We saw lots of cool tricks in that game, lots of creep stacking from Keeper like Jakiro, getting some early farm. Ice was the one player who I felt didn't really have the best game early on, but he made up for it later with a couple of key black holes.
Yeah, especially that one near the bottom tier 1 tower, which completely airballed everyone, baiting MUFC in so Mushi could clean up. It was a very strategic black hole coming out from Ice.
That was game number 1, guys, and in game 2, Gods, it was a bit of a different story. It came down to some questionable strategy from MUFC through the draft in game 1, just not picking up enough stuns, and then not really angling for late game, getting these early game items like a mechanism on the Prophet, not rushing to any Midases, and then choosing to be passive after getting more of those early game items. In game number 2, well, it pretty much ended with the laning stage, where MUFC just made a very, to me, it smacked of them just not being confident that they could actually beat Orange in a head-up game, which was surprising. But maybe Orange has really been impressing in scrimmages. Despite MUFC winning the past few games, they went for something cheesy, they went for something a bit different, and, well, let's take a look and see how that panned out. Heroes, well, oh, what a play by Ken! Gets one! Will he survive? He even, I think he did the tango hitting.
Get Shadow Shaman. Maybe they need to go look to push down a tier 3 tower. If they just continually pester away at the surf point, they could be looking at a maybe 5 or 6 minute high ground push. There's not enough farm, not enough actual. I mean, cost effective is Braces, is Null Talisman, but they also need utility as light effect.
They find Mushi, but Tan just not able to get range for the Hex. Instead, he focuses on Yamate. Yamate, the immediate sleep. The Macro Fire not going to be here. It's only a level 4 hero. Ice Pad onto the sleep ends. The Queen of Pain. Oh, it's destruction. It's annihilation. And Sharky, the lone survivor. 2 heroes dead. Not the lone, but soon to be the lone. Late on the run. Extinct giving chase. Sharky actually tranquil bootsing up. Look how long Ling lives through it, but in the end, he will drop. Guys, that is the...
It's still going to be really hard to execute.
Here's the sleep. Here's the team fight. Ice Pad. Kaz canceled again. Now Kaz. Queen of Pain on. It's the Mushi Show. Triple kill in a quarter of a second. 4 heroes dead. Sharky to fall next. Maybe TP's away. And Gods, I think, the opportunity to put... as far as from what we've seen, so to come into this match and not be confident enough to win in the straight up game surprised me, but the big fight breaks out. Maybe this is a good opportunity. Extinct dropping low, still alive, still surviving. The wall dropped in a nice location. The Fusel Blade is here, and Ohio is not having too much fun with that. Matter. No, it doesn't. Mushi over the top. 2 heroes dead. No death notifications. Ling to drop as well. Ling will fall. Meanwhile, on the back line to play is this damn hero Bear who just can't get it done. A really nice burrow strike, but Orange are just a bit too tanky.
See, 20 seconds on the Naga Sangles, and so there's just a tiny window of opportunity for MUFC to do some
They have a sentry, but it's a little bit too far to the side. Ling will drop instantly. Queen of Pain ult actually catches only Ohio, so not the best ult, but remember, there's an negative...
assassin, but that alone is not going to do enough. Mushi just kiting heroes around, doing all the damage in the world. One by one, they all fall down. This is just bread and butter, easy peasy. That's sweet.
Why you wait? Now it comes. Now it comes. Here comes Mushi. This will be the fight they were looking for. Ice Pad catches out 2. Hero Mushi. Hero Mushi. Mushi or bust. And with that, the GG's. Gods, it's too much. Mushi is too fast.
Yeah.
Gods, that was game number 2. It was the Mushi Show, starring Mushi. Absolutely sensational Queen of Pain play. Now, of course, it needs to be mentioned that Naga Siren and that Jakiro gave him all the setup in the world. But game 2, MUFC, we didn't really see much of it in the highlights, but they went for this quad lane early game timing push, which they'd done before, but it just did not work out at all. Orange had all the answers, and MUFC had none.
Yeah, it really was a bit of a pocket strategy which just crashed and burned. I like how Orange dealt with it. They went for an early gank on Shadow Shaman at mid, who was going to be the one key hero who later on came in to sort of add to their push, to supplement, to sort of bring them over the edge, give them that next level of DPS. But the early gank slowed them down a lot. So Orange, and once Orange caught up, got the levels, Naga Siren ultimate set up, it was just a bit too much. Some nice wombo combo, so that's for sure.
Yep, and that brings us to what I think is our next step here. Let's take a look at the playoff brackets. Orange will be advancing forward from this match. Waiting for them at the LAN finals is DK. So, Gods, let's take a brief look forward towards Orange versus DK. In many ways, it will be somewhat similar to what we saw in IG versus Orange, I feel, where DK are going to make the better late game decisions. At least that's what you'd expect. How can Orange take a game off DK? How can they look to maybe even have a shot at this series? And from what you've mentioned previously, it sounds like they start at a 1-game disadvantage in a best out of 5.
That's what I've read. I think on one of the Chinese sites. Don't hold me to it. I'm as wrong as often as Team Liquid is, which is not that often, but sometimes. They completely mess up the brackets. I still hold them to blame for that. I love you guys over at Team Liquid for all the work you're doing here, but I think it's a best of 5 with the team from because they match up a winner bracket team with a loser bracket. Well, there's not really a winner or loser bracket to start with, but they're matching up teams who finish first and second in their group with the teams from the lower down. So they're giving a 1-game advantage to the team who hasn't lost yet, as far as I know. And I think that, I mean, it gives DK an advantage, obviously. But
right.
I think Orange can still overcome it. They're playing really well. DK are nowhere near as solid as IG are right now. They're still damn freaking scary, but they're not as untouchable as IG.
Break down this matchup a little bit for me. DK versus Orange. What should Orange's game plan be?
It's always going to revolve a lot around Mushi on that mid lane, what he's playing, how he's playing it. Getting Yamata on a hero he's comfortable with as that frontline tanky Chaos Knight or whatever it's going to be is also quite crucial. And I think for Orange, they can't mix it up too much. They're going to keep going with that safe dual lane or tri lane, however it may be. And heroes like Jakiro and Keep of the Light are proving to be crucial. I think for Orange, the key aspect has got to be their support play coming out from those two players, from Ice as well as Extinct. Maybe we'll see an Extinct Chen, but really, I think they do better when they're not having him on Chen almost lately. I'm sort of had a change of heart today, seeing him play those support role, the Jakiro, the Nyx Assassin. I think he can sort of branch out a bit.
Well, he is. That's really what makes him a special support player. Is he's not just a one-trick pony. He doesn't have to be in the jungle. I'm not going to mention any names, but there are some pros out there who really don't play the laning supports that well, but are good junglers. But Extinct is not one of these players. He's a player who can play a laning support. He can play a roamer. He can even play something odd like the Nyx Assassin. And, you know, he's still a key player for this team, whatever hero he's on. I still think the Chen can work versus DK. But, you know, the thing with the Chen is they don't really they pick it to get the early towers. But I feel where they really benefit from it is allowing Yamate and Mushi to tower dive and be aggressive. That's not going to work against DK very often. You're not going to find those kinds of picks. And then you get to a point in the mid to late game where what does Chen really bring to the table? So from that perspective, you're right. Maybe it's not the best pick to have against DK. On the DK side of the board, they've been all over the place in a good way, I would say, where they're not that predictable. At the International 2, you knew what DK was going to do. Every game, it's the 4 Protect 1, burning on the Anti-Mage, the Morphling, occasionally the Lone Druid. You know what they're going to do, but then you have to learn how to stop it. Now you don't even know what DK is going to do, and it's not the Burning Show anymore. It's Super, who is arguably playing better than any other solo mid in China right now, and certainly at a similar level to what we've seen from Ferrari, from Mushi.
He's playing amazing, and I think what the scariest thing for me about DK is they've been playing that style of play with Super controlling the game a lot more, really shining in that mid lane with burning on more the Slardar, the Sven, heroes who are just tanky in that safe lane. But then Game 3 against LGD said, oh, let's just go back to playing anti-mates. We still haven't forgotten how to win games just with burning anti-mates. So it's really scary for me. If I'm RNG Sports, I'm going into this game thinking, like, which DK is going to show up? Both are damn freaking scary. Both require a different mentality to beat. Both require separate preparation. So you've got to prepare for both styles of play. That's probably the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge for Orange here.
Yeah, that's going to be an extremely tough matchup for them. Okay, guys, we've broken down this lower side of the bracket. Let's move our attention towards the top side. It's LGD versus EG, which is our final online playoff match. That one kicks off tomorrow at 20 SGT. As we look towards this LGD versus EG matchup, what are some of the things we can look forward to? What can we expect from EG? How can they possibly handle LGD, who's not only arguably the more consistent and better team, well, certainly has performed better in the last tournament they both were really participating in, which was the International 2, but also has that paint advantage, and boy, is it a significant one.
Yeah, it is. So we'll have to see how EG looks to overcome it. They played ridiculously well against Kung Fu Demon, especially with that Bat Rider. So, I mean, great laning. He showed the ping didn't get the best of him. He managed to do his job against, I believe, Beastmaster that game and just keep him out of the lane. Really just dominate that lane, and then come mid to late game, he just played it. I mean, it wasn't without mistakes, but it was just completely dominant, even with a couple occasional mistakes. And then HY as a stand-in, maybe we'll see him coming in again. Apparently, Beat is having some problems as Hurricane Sandy did get the best of his internet connection, but I think EG could potentially, they've got some strong strategies that they really just execute to perfection. And I think that's really the key thing is how LGD react to those. They should know what's going to be coming their way for the most part, or at least they should try force EG to use something they're less comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about sort of cheesy strategies, the triple Midas, the Nake's bombs inside of the Bat Rider, and of course the Knight strategy. I think some people have mentioned that EG has run Wisp. I wasn't watching those games, but that's a bit of a pocket strategy. I wouldn't call it a full-on cheese. I don't know. With LGD is a little bit predictable. It's almost always Sylar in that safe lane, just going for lots of farm. As far as their laning and their hero assignments go, they're not as versatile, or at least they haven't shown the versatility of a team like LG or like DK or IG. EG pretty much should know what's coming their way, and it's kind of like what I was talking about with DK. You might know what's coming. Can you actually stop it? And it's not easy to say that you can versus LGD.
I think everyone knew what, like, go back to TI2. LGD ran the same strategy about 17, 18 games in a row. They won all 18. Every team knew what was coming. They knew they could ban the Morphling, but then they just go for the Lone Druid, the Anti-Mage instead for Sylar. They had the strong supports. They loved the Invoker, or if not, they'd maybe get a Rubik. It was the same strategy, game in, game out, but teams just never really came up with an easy solution until Na'Vi, when they just decided to not ban Nagasar and not ban all these heroes, which were just always getting banned out. But the LGD show that with practice, with constant practice of just the same strategy over and over again to perfection, it really is a way to beat most teams.
So when it comes to this matchup, if we break it down a little bit farther, does EG need a new cheese? Do they need a new kind of pocket strategy? As far as high impact hero goes, obviously Demon's Bat Rider. It's a hero that gets banned a lot anyway, especially by Chinese teams. I was talking to Brax earlier, and he told me that LGD is banning that all the time when LGD International is scrimmaging against them. We've seen it slip through occasionally. I just don't see EG getting their hands on the Bat Rider, and that's sort of their only stable hero that's been a dominant force for them. You gotta assume LGD is gonna watch at least some of the footage. They're gonna see the Nake's bomb. They'll probably hear about the Knight strat. Do they need an extra strategy, or are those strategies solid enough that they can still work, even if LGD is prepared for them?
Well, I think the one strategy which EG can always fall back on is similar to the Knight strategy, but it's obviously with maybe a few heroes interchange. It's this mid-game push. This get Malk is maybe they go back, do it with a Chen or something instead. They just basically want to. Well, actually, no, what am I talking about? They had the Chen as one of their Knights.
Right.
They have Malk on Chen and then go for this strong mid-game push around the 20-minute mark. If they don't get DK, they can have Lone Druid in the mid lane as well. Fear has played him on occasion as a solo mid when DK has been banned. There's so many small little changes that they can do and still go for and still keep the strategy the same. It may not be the Knight strategy, but it's still the same concept where they get their core items up, they get the mech, they get the pipe, maybe the Vlad's up as well on Malk, whatever it is, and then they just go straight down mid lane, do what they can, dare the opponents to try and stop them from pushing. And if they ban out heroes like the Keeper of the Light for Zhao 8 or whoever it is, I think they have a good chance of executing that well.
Are they really going to be able to ban them, though? Because if you ban those in the first round, then that leaves a lot of other great turtling, more like carries or solo laners in the Naga and the Darkseer. You really can't...
I think we may see a Keeper of the Light ban in the first two in one of the games.
That still would leave the Drakira, who's not as good at stalling the push, also can't recall. Yeah. I think, like you've said, he's sort of the key hero, and that was on our key points last time for LGD, is get Zhao 8, his Keeper of the Light. Not only is the hero great against what EG wants to do, but he's also one of the best Keeper of the Light players in the world. Very impressive, very versatile, doesn't have to be a support, can serve as your offlane player, but certainly is comfortable in that support role too, and well, we'll see. LGD has thrown curveballs from time to time. We just haven't seen them at G1. I know we saw
Suicide Alchemist, that's a bit of a curveball, yeah, which I don't want to go into too much. I'll end up red and raging with fury at the stupidity of it.
Let's keep the flame to a dull, low burn, gods. Come on now. But yeah, I agree. That strategy just had no chance of success, and it was thoroughly punished and picked apart by DK. We're not going to see that again, though. That much I'm very confident. Actually, I was talking to Brax. He said a lot of interesting things about LGD, but he was surprised they were running it as this offlane hero. Every time they scrimmage, it's a safe lane farmer, and they go, they just, or even maxing Goblin's Greed. But even what we saw, that's a hero for me that's a total trap for LGD. They clearly don't really understand how to use it. I don't know why he's fitting into their strategy so weird, but aside from that offlane game, which is a bit of a blip on the radar, when it was Sylar running it, he maxed the AoE first, he maxed the poison spray, or the acid spray, and he maxed the Unstable Concoction, and he's playing this roaming style. He had free farm in the lane. He could have just maxed the greed, gotten a lot of early items up. That's apparently been working quite well for LGD International in their scrimmages, but if you're going to run Alchemist, he's such a fast farmer, it just seems like a total waste to play him as a roamer or to play him as an offlane hero.
Maybe he works as a farmer though against EG, because against that kind of push strategy, Acid Cloud could work well. So
That's
maybe
true.
we'll see them going back to that, the way that Brack says they've been playing it in their scrims, which is as the farming role in the safe lane. As an offlaner, you can just be zoned out too easily, kept away from getting any XP or gold. So I think if they pick it, it's without a doubt going into that safe lane. But I think more likely they won't be looking at it as a viable option.
Any other interesting tidbits or points we want to make about this match? Anything that's sort of bouncing around in the back of your head?
I don't think so. I'd be really excited, and I mean, part of me is cheering for EG. I'd love to see a Western team, and EG at that, a team that so many people love. A lot of people, a very, I guess, infamous team in some ways, but a very highly skilled team, and I'd love to see them at the LAN finals. It'd really add a whole new dimension, a whole new storyline to the event. And I mean, LGD, I'm about to say LGD probably my favorite Chinese team, but having EG there would be special.
It would. Now, can they get there? That's the question. The final factor, of course, is the HY factor, or just more generally, who's going to be standing in for GoDz, since, like you said, his internet apparently still struggling. And it's, you know, it's not even a matter of skill, and to some extent, it's also just ping. If you have 30 ping, you're going to be able to last hit and control that middle lane a lot better than Jo or Fear is, or whoever's going mid when they have 300 plus ping, 200 plus ping. So, who's going to be the stand-in? We don't know, haven't heard yet. If it's HY, I think they have a shot. I think it's an outside shot, but I feel LGD is a little bit less versatile and adaptable than these other Chinese teams, at least so far. And that's where a cheesy, kind of off-the-wall, crazy kind of squad, ragtag band like EG could make their mark.
Yeah, if this was DK, this was IG, I'd say not a chance. EG, you're going home. But LGD, I have this just small niggling feeling, which is like maybe they can do it. Maybe they could actually win this. LGD, the obvious favourites. I feel like much like today, Orange, chances are they're the expected team to come out on top. But there's just that small thing where you're like, well, EG have some smart strategies. Much like MUFC, they're on a bit of a hot streak. They just cruise through Flash. Maybe they can do this. It's a matchup which could maybe work in their favour. And the same thing applies here, but smart money's on LGD.
Yeah, smart money's on LGD, but the smart money is wrong from time to time, not only in esports, but also in pro sports. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for our post-game analysis, and look forward towards tomorrow when it'll be EG facing off against LGD. That action will kick off at 20 SGT, which, as you can see here, if you bother to read the schedule, is 7 a.m. Eastern Time for those on the United States East Coast. It would be 4 a.m. if you're on the Pacific end of the United States, and of course 13 CET over in Europe. So that wraps it up for our post-game coverage. Really wanted to have Brax on for an interview. He said he would do one, but I think he's either gone to sleep or is practicing or otherwise occupied now. But we'll get him on sometime soon in the future, and it will be really interesting to get his perspective as the American sort of representative living behind enemy lines in China. I'm just kidding, of course, about the enemy line states. But that'll wrap it up for today's broadcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, 20 SGT, LGD versus EG, East versus West, Cheese versus Standard Play. Who will prevail? We'll find out in a few hours. See you guys.